let's just get right into it. How different is the current housing market now to you versus the crash in 2008? Is there a significant difference, or it's not that serious?
It's not that serious. The impact that we had in 2007, 2008 was fueled by real estate.
Okay.
This is not the case right now. This COVID-19, it's a fear factor that, yes, it exists. And just in the past couple of weeks, I've been busier than ever because guess what? People are now finally, that fear is now fading away. And now people are like, we need a place to live. The interest rates are super low. We need to take advantage of it. So my phone has not stopped, and so has my agents. We're constantly talking and getting information from each other. And we've been busier than ever in the last couple of weeks. So, with that said, I think, yes, COVID-19 has affected our market in certain instances because there are certain owners that have been affected more than others. They have to sell. They don't have enough equity. But it's not like it was back in 2007, 2008, where people have cashed out to the point of no return.
Right.
And basically that's what fueled the whole bubble, and that's what happened. That is not the case. Right now we have between last crash and what's going on right now, it's 3.5 times less of cash outs, and I'm talking about in percentages.
Right.
So I have some stats here actually with that conversation. So between 2005 and 2007, there was $824 billion in refinances cashed out from home equity lines. Right. So now when you compare it to 2017 to 2019, there was only 232 billion. So that's 3.5 times less than the last crash that we had. That's a significant number.
That's very significant. So let's go back, because you said something that was important. You said that depending on the owner, some homeowners is what the language you use. Some homeowners are feeling the brunt. Now, these are homeowners that are more leveraged than other homeowners? Because if you own 1 or 2 houses, maybe it's not as bad as someone that owns 10. Is that what you mean, or?
Not necessarily, because you could be still in a very good position owning several homes because you still have the equity. Financially, you haven't been impacted as much as others have, right? Because depending on what industry you're in, there are certain people, depending on what business they're in, they haven't been impacted as much. So the impact that we've had mostly here, at least here in Miami, South Florida, it's been the hospitality business, right? It's been the restaurants. So those are the people that you're going to see that either are currently owning homes that are in trouble because they live paycheck to paycheck, and also they don't have equity. So those are the ones that are going to be impacted, and those are the ones where we're going to see some probably increase in foreclosures going up, but it's going to be a very small percentage compared to the crisis we had before.
Absolutely.
And so the recovery time is going to be so much faster compared to what we had last time happen. So with certain people, going back to what you said, the leverage, of course, that's a plus for somebody that's leveraged in a good way, meaning that they have equity. They're in a good position because even if they lost their jobs, but they own several properties, they can sell one of their properties, cash out, and be able to take care of that, right? So it depends on the situation, and a lot of people are in a much better situation than they were before because of all the speculating that was going on.
Yeah.
So I think people really did learn their lesson, and they're no longer, don't get me wrong, we still have those speculators, but not as many as we had last time.
So the Florida housing market undoubtedly took a major hit from coronavirus. But what people are saying is the rebound time is uncertain, and a lot of people have essentially what they put in the news. They say they pressed the pause button. So to the people out there right now that are pressing the pause button, what do you say to them? I mean, obviously, as a broker, you
take that finger off that pause button and do what you need to do, because there are so many more positive things that we have that you need to take advantage of, such as the interest rates, right? The interest rates right now are in the low 3s. Now, again, there are different factors that go into calculating an interest rate, because everybody goes on the internet and they're like, oh, my interest rate should be X. There are factors, and you need to speak to your lender, because depending on your debt to income ratio and all that stuff, your interest rate is going to vary. But still, compared to where we were even a year ago, it's about a 1-point difference. And so with that said, if you're so concerned about the price values going down, they're probably going to go down a little bit. It's not going to be like a 50% drop, but with the interest rates being so low, you're going to take advantage of that. And over a 1-year period on a $200,000 loan, you're going to be saving over $27,000 a year. So over the 30-year period, I'm
30-year
sorry.
period,
Yes, you're going to be saving that amount of money. So even if the prices do go down, and then they go up, they always fluctuate. You're still safe. So take advantage of that. Now, yes, there are some people that are looking at it as an investment versus should I buy because I'm buying it as a primary residence? Yes, in those cases, I think that it's probably a good idea to just wait it out a little bit and gauge it, but be able to pull that plug quickly.
Right.
Now, if you're buying cash, you have the ability to wait it out and pull the plug whenever you want. Now, if you're buying it using financing, you do have to gauge the market. You have to gauge the interest rate. So
Right.
there's different factors.
No, that makes a lot of sense. So if you're listening out there, I guess you heard it directly. Don't press the pause button. Now, how about the person that says, okay, but you're a broker. You're a salesperson. You built an empire off of knowing how to sell. You're saying no and say, I know this, Julie. You actually just purchased.
I just closed
You
on my
just
second
closed
property.
on your second property.
Yeah.
Is around time. So that's a credible thing to understand for you, those of you that are listening out there. Is while she's saying this, as an entrepreneur, she also just went back in and purchased as well. And so that's also what I want to say is that I'm noticing a very interesting phenomenon going on is that a lot of my friends that are agents all around the country are saying actually their business wasn't affected at all. Do you think that people could be saying, let me protect some of this cash I have? And maybe I was fearful before, but now is probably the right time to buy a house, at least to put some, to secure some of that cash somewhere. Do you think that could be a result for some?
Absolutely. And different markets, so it's a very general question, and every market is different. So it depends where you are. But as far as South Florida is concerned, if you're looking to purchase right now and you have money, I would say it's definitely a safe time to buy, because even if the prices do go down, it's an up and down kind of effect. And right now, the down effect is not going to be so great for you to not take that chance of purchasing a property for yourself.
Right.
Because there's also, what are you going to do? You're going to go rent a property and you're going to pay somebody else's mortgage. There are also other benefits of purchasing a property, such as tax benefits, which, you should always discuss this with your CPA or accountant.
Sure.
But, you have your interest that you pay is tax deductible. The property taxes you pay.
Say that again, because if a person has never purchased a home, they don't understand that.
Yeah.
Literally. So if you pay an additional $200,000 over the course of X amount of years for your property, the entire interest is tax deductible.
Yeah. So there are caveats to that.
Yeah.
So there are some restrictions, and every person is going to be different because there is a loan limit that you cannot exceed. However, there are benefits to property taxes up to $10,000 are tax deductible. So that's huge.
Very much.
And you're a homeowner. You have the now you have the luxury of choosing, do I want to upgrade my home, or do I have to live in this house that somebody else built with the same color walls and stuff like that. So for me, at least, and for many of the people that I know that are my clients, to them, that's a huge plus. They're doing something to their home, because most of the times when people do move into a property, they want to improve it, right? So why not improve your own home and then be in charge of your destiny? And that's the way that I look at it. And right now, all of the things that we look at, such as the stability and the interest rates, they're very, very low. And when I'm talking about stability, I'm not talking about unemployment stability, because obviously
that's tough. Another monster.
That's another monster that we're tackling. But when I'm talking about stability of property values, so our property values still, when you look at the predictions, they're predicting that the prices from now to 2022, they're pretty much going to stay where they're at right now.
Which is a good sign. It's a great sign.
It's a great
actually.
sign.
Yeah, that's a great sign. Especially me, I'm a recent home buyer as well. And I was intrigued to know that when I looked at whatever forecast data was available, that the home value didn't drop much.
Yep.
So that's actually very good. So in a buyer's market, for those of you listening, the buyer has the power, typically in a buyer's market, right? More supply, less demand allows you to negotiate better terms and deals if you're the buyer. In a seller's market, the seller has the power, right? Because the law of supply and demand is reversed. Would you, if you just had to pinpoint it, would you say we're in a buyer's market? Or would you say people should buy but proceed with caution?
So on a macro level, buyer's market. But on a micro level, again, you have to look at each individual market as a sub-market. And so there are certain areas that are still a seller's market. There's not enough inventory in certain markets.
That's a fair response. So what advice could you give to a first-time home buyer, a person that's like, look, this is an exciting time. And I was just speaking about this earlier with a friend of mine, is during pandemics is where the magic really happened. It's unfortunate. A lot of people lose. A lot of people suffer. There are people, no matter what discussion we have here, they will lose their home.
Yep.
They will lose their properties and assets. However, I like to also think there's a silver lining within there where people really get adventurous and spontaneous and pull out those resistance barriers that they had. And I'm hearing a little from the people I know. There are people that are really interested in saying, you know what? I want to buy my first home now. And whether that's motivated by saying, if I have to be on quarantine for another year, I'd rather for it to be in somewhere that I feel safe, something that has more space, something that's mine. And I won't have to worry about the owner selling and I'm stuck, which is what you were saying before. So when you look at that, what raw and true advice can you give to that first home buyer if they're scared?
So first and foremost, get yourself a knowledgeable realtor. When you're a buyer, it does not cost you a thing. So when you go to a doctor for a specific kind of, procedure that you need to get done, you go to a specialist, right? You don't go to some general doctor because that's what they specialize in. It's the same thing with real estate. There are realtors that specialize in different kind of things. So whatever it is that you're looking for, make sure you research and you get yourself a realtor, somebody that's knowledgeable. And internet is out there for everyone to use.
Absolutely.
And there's a lot of information out there that you have to filter through. But at the end of the day, it is a lot of knowledge out there that you can grasp on and take advantage of. So realtors are on the internet. You can research them. You can go on their Zillow profile. You can see, what they've done, where they've sold. So
Correct.
now it's not a matter of them telling you what they did.
You can look.
You can look it up.
Yeah.
So that's number one, because once you get yourself a knowledgeable realtor that's been experienced, that has had X amount of years, and there's really, really good realtors out there that are also new in the business,
Right.
but have other knowledge that they're bringing to the
they're
table.
bringing that into their table.
Yeah,
Right.
so, don't take it away from the new realtors. I don't want to take that away from them because there's a lot of amazing realtors on my team that are brand new that are, kicking butt, and they're amazing.
Now let me touch on that one as well, because that's so key. If you've never purchased a home, and it's the process that you learn to appreciate as a home buyer. It's very fearful on the outside because there's a lot of stuff that you have to kind of put together in order to buy this home. But once you go through it, you realize, hey, let's do it again. If you're capable to do it. So if you're listening to this out there, don't just settle, as Julie said, for someone that just is a realtor. Or maybe it could be a family member or a friend. You want somebody that's truly knowledgeable, because the realtor can make or break the deal in many, many, many cases. And not only that, at the end of the day, a home purchase is a very monumental thing in someone's life.
Absolutely.
And you don't want that to be mismanaged by the wrong person.
Exactly. But, I want to go back to the new realtors because I don't want to take that away from
Absolutely.
them again. As I have a lot of new realtors and I actually love mentoring them and teaching them, and they have a broker that they can count on. So
Right.
even a brand new agent, if you feel comfortable that they're with a broker that has the knowledge, that's
Right.
what we're here for. That's why they join a broker, so that the broker can provide the knowledge to the newer realtors,
Yep.
right? So with that said, getting yourself a very knowledgeable realtor is number one, because that, with the realtor, you can kind of filter the information that
Absolutely.
you're hearing it from other people, because they should be the person you confide in. They
Yep.
should be the person you speak with and say, hey, what about that? I read this on the internet. Can you tell me more
Exactly.
about that? So we're the filter between the internet and the client, because there's a lot of information and it could be overwhelming, and a lot of it can be misinterpreted, and you could be guided a very wrong path. And so it's important to team up with a realtor that's going to be able to guide you down the right path.
Absolutely.
And then that you're successful in reaching your goal of home ownership. And it's really an easy process.
It is.
For me, because I've been there, done that.
A million times, yeah.
And I do it for my clients, but it's an amazing process once you have the right team leading you. And it's
Absolutely.
not just a realtor. It doesn't stop with a realtor. I know you asked me, what are my 5 top tips for
Right. And we're going to get there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we can't give them the juice just quite yet.
I'm sorry.
But I also wanted to say, because I know you wanted to make sure you emphasize the fact that you were not saying that new realtors. I think the word we used was experience.
Yeah.
Because, for example, I've trained salespeople in the world that in the existing business and market we were in, there were people that were in that business 15 years. But the newer person, because they came equipped with more ability to connect with people faster, they were more entrepreneurial and self-starters.
Everything at the speed of now.
They just ran up that ladder. So I think what we were both trying to say is to just make sure that the person that is your agent has a vested interest in getting you the best deal, and they have the information to be able to provide
Exactly.
you.
Yep.
Whether they're day one or day 100.
Right.
So that's a great segue into this, is that what help or services do you think that are available to assist people in buying? Now, the Federal Housing Finance Agency, we have to touch on this because this is frustrating for many people. They open forbearance programs that allows for missed mortgage payments. But the issue with that is if you don't read the silver lining, it's not a forgiveness situation. Right now, there's a blurred line with saying, yeah, we'll extend you 2 or 3 months, but you have to pay that whole amount due in several months. Can you clarify exactly what that is? Because there's a lot of misleading information out there for people.
Yeah, so every lender is going to have a different stipulation, but a forbearance for most means that they're going to go ahead and usually add that payment that they're not really forgiving it to you, they're extending it.
Right.
And now they're extending it to the end of the term. So now instead of it being a 30-year mortgage or whatever, how many years you have left, it's being added on to the end. So, you know, I've heard other people talking about that they're making them pay it off, let's say in 3 months, that full amount.
Let me re-ask that question because I clicked this here, and that's such a key point. So what do you say about that? Can you re-explain that?
So the forbearance, I've been hearing a lot of different things, but typically a lot of lenders, and you have to check with each lender individually, and make sure you understand. But typically what most lenders are doing right now with the forbearance is that they're adding whatever payment, let's say it's 3 months that they're letting you not pay, they're adding those 3 months to the end of your term.
Okay.
So it definitely needs to be, nothing is for free. They still got to pay for their money. So
Exactly.
you got to pay for yours. Just like, you know, with rent money, a lot of people now are also talking about, oh, my rent should be forgiven. And that's not the case.
Yeah,
the
it's not
landlord
case.
still got to pay
Somebody
a mortgage.
But isn't it also the case, depending on the lender, that although they'll give you a couple of months to get your stuff together, there are lenders, because I called one just to see if this was true, that they're saying, yeah, we will give our clients 2 months, we'll hold it, but on the 3rd month, they have to pay all those months in full. We won't put it on the back end of the loan.
Right. That's why I said make sure you call your lender individually and verify with them. But yes, I've heard of that too, which does not make any sense at all.
No. So, and I wanted to ask that question for those of you that are listening, because don't just say, okay, great, this is loan forgiveness. This is not what this is. Somebody has to pay that bill. So I don't want you to be surprised that, you know, you didn't look at the fine line, the bottom line, and in 3 months, you actually, if your mortgage is $2,000 a month, you have $6,000 due.
Right.
In 3 months, and that's a tough spot to be in if you weren't aware.
Yeah, I mean, you're already in a bad spot to begin with, and now you're just tripling that bad spot.
Exactly. I also want to talk a little further about the skill set of an agent, because in your case, you've built a company, and first, I know people that built really. How old are you, Julie?
I'm 37.
You're 37 years old.
Think about that one.
No, this is amazing. You're 37 years old. You have a fantastic business model and a beautiful office in Miami, where we know Miami is full of movers and shakers. But you've been able to do this as you haven't had children yet, but you bust your ass and you really built this massive company. And you're young in comparison to the grand scheme of things. What do you say to the person that's out there that aspires to say, I want to be a broker and I want to build my own company? What advice do you offer them?
Be passionate. So whatever it is that you're doing, passion has to be the driving force, and it's the driving force for me. So what I do is not work,
Right.
because I love it. I breathe it, I eat it, that's what feeds me and that's what gives me life. So
Right.
that's my passion. And so I think with the passion, anything that you do with passion is just going to thrive.
Right. And so you've been in this business for how many years?
I've had my company since 2007. I actually opened it up when the last crash
So look at this,
was
right?
going on.
This is textbook amazing because you built a company during a crash without understanding the uncertainty of the future.
Yep.
And you jumped in and you nosedived in. And so you've essentially experienced two pandemics in a sense. And you've built this massive company. And I'm not going to ask you about your company's personal earnings or the amount of houses, but you drive the Bentley, you have the beautiful condo over the water, and now you just got another one downtown. For someone that thinks that's impossible to do, like during pandemics, we always say, this is where the magic can happen. This is where you learn something from it, and you reaching your inner ingenuity and say, if I'm ever going to take a risk so that I can prepare for later on in life. To the person that's scared to do that, you can literally sit here and say, I was that person and I did it. Look at me.
I definitely am that person, and just thinking about it gives me the goosebumps, because it just takes me back to that time, and it wasn't easy. It was very tough, but again, with my passion as the driving force, I knew that I was going to make it, and I had to adapt and I had to figure things out very quickly.
Right.
And that's another thing. So if you're in real estate, you need to learn how to adapt, because the market is ever changing, be it to adapt your tactic, be it to adapt, your model.
Right.
But you need to be able to adapt and stick to it. And that's why a lot of people also fail in real estate, is that they're not able to adapt quickly enough. And like I said, this market is ever changing, and you need to be able to stick with it.
Oh man. So that's a powerful statement, because there's a statistic that's running out there that says a large percentage of the most successful realtors that generate over $100,000 or more a year in that percentage of people is because they've embraced technology and the CRM systems and stuff like that. So for the agent that is out there listening to this, that says, not the buyer per se or the seller, the agent that's saying, wow, I'm inspired by what Julie has done at such a young age and built this massive enterprise. What is a tip you can give me to be successful before we get into those? Because the tips we're going to offer is owning a home. But I'm sure you would definitely tell someone, you better crack open the technology that's available to you, because you can reach a plethora of people now.
I mean, oh my God. The era that we live in, like, if you're not successful, you're definitely doing something wrong, because the information is there.
Yeah.
The access to information is there. I mean, you still got to read it. You still got to, educate yourself. But the technology, being able to get in front of millions of people at the same time, we didn't have that before.
No.
Before internet. And when I started in my real estate career in 2001, I didn't have any of that, you know? So I had to work 100 times harder than we have to work right now. But right now, I think what a lot of people do get scared about, they get overwhelmed, is the amount of knowledge and the amount of technology, because they don't know which technology do I use. They want to do everything at the same time, and then they fail. So you really got to get down to the core of your business, and not try to take on all the technology that's available out there, but really focus on what's important for you and your core business.
Yeah.
And if I had to suggest for any realtors that are out there, regardless of how old you are, how long you've been in the business, a CRM is one of your go-to technologies that you need to embrace and have, because it's a way for you to stay in touch with your clients on a massive level.
Right.
Instead of, let me pick up the phone and make that phone call, which, don't get me wrong, those phone calls are necessary as well, but you also need to be on the tip of the mind of that client every single day, because the number of realtors is growing, and you want to be that realtor that, regardless of how many realtors they meet along the way, they're always going to be reminded of you, because you're constantly in their face through social media, through email blast. But the only way to do that is to have a centralized system like a CRM that's going to do the work for you. And there's tons of them.
Yeah.
And if you ask me which one, I would say use the one that's going to work for you.
Exactly.
And go with it. And be consistent.
And be consistent. So to add to that what you just said, in the sales world, where I come from, when I used to facilitate trainings, and every now and then I do it now, I ask the salespeople that are mid-level looking to go higher. And I said, what do you believe that the prime around the ideal number of follow-ups that you should have with a potential lead or customer? And I said, well, how many times do you think you should follow up? And at what number do you think is where the people are most successful? So people will say 1, or I'm gonna follow up with them 2. So this conversation is for agents that are listening out there. Do you know that it is not until you hit between 9 and 11 follow-ups that the sales, the heightened level of the sales actually happen?
Absolutely.
So if you're fearful by saying, well, I followed up with them once or twice, a very minuscule percentage of closing the sale will ever happen. And this is sales in general, no matter what you do. So what you're saying is if you have that system, you're able to not attack them, but kind of reach out to them on multiple levels.
Exactly. And that goes the same. It's sales 101. And so follow-up is realtors' number one downfall is follow-ups.
Yeah.
And so if you create a system that's able to automate the follow-up for you, and you just have to make maybe 1 or 2 phone calls rather than doing all those phone calls at that time, you could follow up on a massive level with massive amount of people. So that's why your real estate empire can grow so much bigger than you could have ever had it grow before. And you have to embrace it. But, you know, talking about follow-up, another thing that I want to touch on is follow-up can be done in many different ways. There's a follow-up that can be done with a phone call, or a follow-up can be done by sending an email, a text message, a video. There are so many. So you have to get creative, and you have to use the technology for every type of, and I think you have to categorize people, right, into like what's going to be the most effective follow-up
for this person.
And you got to use those tools. So again, being creative, you're in sales, it's like opening up your mind and not being feared of rejection, because that's, I think, one of the number one things
for new salespeople.
And even myself, it's something that I work on every single day, and just not having that fear of rejection is gonna break those walls, and it's going to, you know, create amazing things and breakthroughs.
And here's the good news: the more you get rejected, the more comfortable with it you get.
Yeah, and every no is a step closer to a yes.
100%. So now for the part that we really want to discuss. So Julie, in your years of experience, and you've been doing this for quite some time, and as we said before, you are the poster child in a sense for the success when it comes to real estate, and you're clearly not stopping, because you're building another office, and I'm sure you're motivated. You got a lot of pump left in you, right? Yep. So what would be your top 5 tips that you would give? Let's go back to homeowners. For the person that says, you know what, I'm ready to buy a home, is there anything you can share with me to help me? What would be your top 5 tips?
Number 1, get a realtor. Okay. I said that already, but that goes a long way, and I don't know why people don't do it. I have so many people that call me that start out without a realtor, and they waste a lot of time. So number 1 is get yourself a knowledgeable realtor. Number 2, that realtor is going to guide you through the process of getting the right lender. There's a lot of lenders available, and you need to feel comfortable working with the right lender, because without money, you're not buying a home.
Of course.
So don't waste your time excited about a property only to find out that you need more of a down payment than you initially thought, you know, or assumed. So don't leave any room for assumption. First things first is getting the money straight. So you need to get that done. If you are looking to purchase a home, you should give yourself at least 6 months before starting the process. That way you kind of have everything aligned, and so you're prepared.
And it can happen much sooner than that. But you're saying buffer yourself.
Buffer yourself if you have the time. But I mean, I have people that started a month before and they want to get into a house, and we'll make it happen. But if you have the ability to give yourself a buffer, for sure give yourself at least 6 months to be prepared and have everything ready to execute.
That's a great point.
And then what else I got for you? And then also about, you know, educating yourself about the different loan programs, which again goes back to the lender, and just knowing which one is going to be the best for you. What property.
Now, one question for lenders. So again, because this is language that maybe a new person is not sure. So what you suggested is definitely when you're first starting out, if you haven't had a great relationship pre-existing with a lender, to shop several lenders and compare.
Oh, absolutely. You definitely should shop and have several options available and see, because even though, and this is a thing that I want to put out there for a lot of buyers that are listening, you have banks, right, that go by Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac guidelines, and then you have lenders that are not banks, where you can go in and do deposits, but they're still the direct lenders. Now, the difference between banks, and I'm talking in general sense, is that they're more regulated than the lenders. And what happens is, so with Freddie Mac or Fannie Mae guidelines, a bank, in order to further protect themselves, they will add an overlapping guideline. So it is already, not the easiest to get pre-approved, although I think it's fairly easy, but for some people it may be a little tougher. They now add a layer on top of the regular guidelines. So they're making it more difficult. And then so people think, oh, I don't qualify to buy a home, but that's not the case. So I would always recommend, if you want to go to your local bank, please do find out what you qualify with them. And then also go to a regular lender, a direct lender that your realtor recommends. Yeah, and then compare the two. And also, again, talk to your realtor about the options so that you can understand, because sometimes a lender will talk too fast, or a lender may not explain everything as it should be. So if you have questions, confide in that realtor, that the realtor will guide you and make sure you understand. And if not, get a phone call with the lender, talk together, and make sure you guys, understand the whole clear picture.
It's a good point, because listen, and I can say it because I don't have a real estate company, but lenders sometimes can offer you a lot more flexibility. And maybe they don't have as much red tape. They still abide by the law, but there's not as much red tape because they don't abide by those regulations. So if you're first starting out, go to your local bank if you have because in some cases you can get a better rate depending on your relationship with your bank. But it's good to have options. Don't accept the first yes. That's one of the rules of negotiation anyway. It's just don't do that. So those are the options available for you, and check out and look at them. So that was number 3.
That was number 3. So that was, making sure you understand your loan programs, because number 2 was getting a lender. Number 4, I would say, realtor.
Again, get you a realtor.
And I'm not just saying it because I'm a realtor, but I'm a realtor for a reason, and I see what people go through, and and I really do feel that if you have that realtor, everything is gonna be fine. And there's also down payment assistance programs available too.
That's
and
key.
Some lenders don't have that. So if you do want to buy, but you think that, oh, I can't buy because I don't have enough money saved, don't put that into perspective until you speak to a lender, because there are a lot of programs out there available for first-time buyers with down payment assistance. And with that said, with down payment assistance and with the help of closing costs, you may be able to go in to buy a home with almost nothing down.
Absolutely.
Or into the deal, but you do
and
make
see, that's
the money.
their points of having a realtor.
Yeah.
Because a realtor know the options. They will listen. Here's the thing: the realtor wants to sell.
Yeah.
They want to help you find out and get to the promised land faster. So it's not like the realtor is against you. So the reason why she's saying get a realtor, especially ones that knows the law of the land a little, is because they want to sell. It doesn't cost you a dime, and they're going to work to help you to get to where you need to be faster. And that's super important.
Yeah, and if one more thing I can add, I would say do use the internet, but again, use your realtor to go back and ask questions, because maybe there is something that you're not sure about and maybe your realtor didn't touch on. So don't go trying to figure it out on your own and using the internet, because like I said, it could lead you down the rabbit hole very, very quickly, and you don't want to do that. So having that guidance and having that buffer that you can go into and speak clearly and openly about what are your concerns and your questions definitely will help. But use the internet. Go in there, research, and ask questions. Lots of questions.
And do you feel like it's wrong for someone that has an existing realtor and they don't feel like they're doing the right, treating them with the right service, or they're not knowledgeable, to get another realtor?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So if you really do feel like your realtor is not performing, is not getting back to you, or is not knowledgeable, absolutely.
Right.
You owe that to yourself.
Absolutely.
So don't feel like you're obligated to use that realtor. If they're not providing a service to you, you have the right to fire them.
There you go.
And, I haven't been fired myself. But, I've had realtors that have lost clients because they didn't get back to them in time, or, they gave them wrong information, not intentionally, but it happens. And you as a client, you have the right to do that. But I also want to mention, because there's a lot of clients out there, and don't do this. If you are working with a realtor, we have access to the same information, all of us. We have access to the multiple listing service, which we all share all of our listings. So if you are working with a realtor, you got to also remember, we put in a lot of time and effort, and we don't make any money until we close on that deal.
Yep.
So, be respectful of people's time and people's effort as well. And don't think that going from one realtor to the next, you're going to get different availability of properties, because that's not the case. So
Right.
just be loyal as well in order to get the treatment that you deserve as well, because it goes both ways.
Right. But understand at the same time, it's you looking for the house, and you have the right to be well represented.
Yes.
Which is important. Well, Julie, I think this is great knowledge for people, because while you have obviously dealt with a lot of people, celebrities and other people that have purchased houses, there are a lot of people out there in the world that still have not experienced home ownership. And it is a piece of the American dream, is one of the largest purchases that you make in your life. And I'm sure in your position as a boss and as a broker and agent, all of the things wrapped into one, you want that experience to be memorable, because you want them to come back to your company as well.
Yes, absolutely. And one more thing for all of you guys that are listening. So I sell homes for Fannie Mae.
Okay.
And so there's a website that everybody should check out, which is homepath.com. And that's where all the Fannie Mae properties are listed that are foreclosed. However, there's also a section there that's called, it's a home ready product, mortgage product, where you can actually get 3% closing contribution towards your purchase.
Okay.
But you have to fulfill a certain education. There's an education that you have to pass. And then with that certificate, buying a home through HomePath, you can actually get 3% towards your closing costs.
Oh wow! Now, if you look at that can be a substantial amount of money for some people.
Yeah.
So thank you for doing that. Now, Julie, normally when we have guests on the show, we never have any self-promotion, and you didn't do that this time. But actually, you've given out a lot of jewels of wisdom to people. So if someone's listening, and there will be people in South Florida, plug yourself. Like, how do they get in contact with you?
So you guys can get a hold of me via my office number, 305-751-6400. I also have Instagram, Julie's Realty Miami, or my personal page, Julie_the_broker. You can find me there. And we're located. We have an office in North Bay Village,
right.
And I just opened up a second location in downtown Miami. So we're taking over downtown Miami.
I think that's awesome. And we're going to also include those links if you're listening to the show. If you go into the notes section of the podcast, all of her direct links actually will be listed right there. In closing, Julie, we always do something on Be Mspired, and we kind of put you on the spot where we want another takeaway. I mean, you've given a lot of things to consider, but if you have to invoke one piece of wisdom as a part of your inspiration, what would that be to the listener out there?
Real estate related?
Whatever you feel. Whether it's during these times, whether it's has it relate to buying a house, whether it's a real estate agent, whatever.
I think just in general, be passionate about anything that you do. You know, it doesn't have to be career. It could be, giving back to a community. So I feel like if you live a passionate life, you will live a long and good life. And so that's something that I want people to take away from this, is that, my passion has brought me to where I am today, and I'm forever grateful. And I hope that everyone does the same thing in their life, or something that they're passionate about.
Well, it's been an extreme pleasure having you on the show. I hope you've enjoyed yourself on Be Mspired.
Thank you for the opportunity. I loved it. Thank you.
Absolutely. So there you have it. It is the right time to buy. So is it buy, sell, or is it wait? Julie's saying don't press the pause button. She's saying get out there and get it, and things will be fine. And if you look at the forecast of where home prices should be, everything seems to look stabilized. And most importantly, if you haven't received her most powerful part of wisdom, it's get a realtor, get an agent. Yeah. This is Miguel Global, your host on the Be Mspired podcast. And remember, you can have a lot of choices when you wake up in the morning, but always remember that you can have the choice to be inspired. Don't forget to like and follow and rate the page, and follow us on all social medias at Be Mspired Podcast. Until the next episode, we out of here.